Greetings and welcome to Alonzo Bash podcast, where art and culture meets activism. This week we're joined by Khalif Greaves, better known as KG from the internationally recognized Talks with KG podcast. In this powerful and revealing episode, KG breaks down the real story behind the overnight success of Trini Bad, exposing common misconceptions about the grind, the culture, and what success truly looks like behind the scenes. He also dives deep into the dangers of AI in music, sharing his unfiltered perspective on how technology is reshaping creativity and threatening authenticity in the industry. KG opens up about his fallout with NCW, the lessons learned, and the personal costs that come with standing on principle. Plus, he reflects on the interview that changed everything, the moment that shifted his trajectory and elevated his voice on a global level. Insightful, honest, and unapologetically real, this is a conversation creators, artists, and media voices don't want to miss. This and more. The Alonzo Bash podcast starts now.
Greetings and welcome to Alonzo Bash podcast. I'm your host Alonzo Bash, and I've always, man, we got I would say legends, but this is a young man like myself. Of course, he's a little younger than me. I look at him as one of the leading figures in the podcast space. Of course, he's from my hometown, Arima. So I'm always excited to talk to fellow Arimians, man. I don't want to waste no time, ladies and gentlemen. He's here from Talk.
Yeah,
Welcome, brother.
man.
Hey, it's you. It's you.
Okay.
All right, so this is the first time really linking up, man. So pretty much, I just want to touch base on the backstory a little bit. Of course, we're from the same area, so we have some similarities. So you're born and raised in Arima, right? Nettleville.
Yeah, for sure. Born and raised there.
All right, so tell me about the Nettleville community, man. What that community is like for folks who are not too familiar with Arima itself. Arima is a big place, eh? So
Yeah,
Nettleville,
for sure.
Nettleville is like the heart of Arima.
Correct. So I mean, Nettleville was always a family-oriented neighborhood. A lot of old folks still live in this neighborhood. The majority of people in the neighborhood is actually older people.
Yeah.
So it's a quiet, nice area. Probably one of the quietest areas in Arima.
Yeah, man.
So it's a good vibes, man.
Yeah, it's funny because when I had asked you earlier when Arima you from, you told me Nettleville. And for a second, I had a brain freeze because I was like, wait a minute, Nettleville? And wait, actually, like I mentioned, I actually was born and grew up in that area, welcome area, but on the lower end. Nice. All right, now you talk about family life, mom and dad and so forth. You got siblings, brothers and sisters?
Yeah. Mom, dad grew up with my mom and my sister. My dad is Bajan, so that is like the Bajan side of the thing. Yeah, but I really grew up with my mom and my sister, and I spent a lot of time with my grandmother.
Nice. And grandma from Arima side as well?
Yeah.
Nice. All right. What about the school in primary school and secondary school, junior sec or what have you?
Arima Boys RC,
Yeah.
and then from Arima Boys RC, I went to St. Joseph College.
Okay, nice.
After St. Joseph College was music.
Yeah. So when did you realize you have a gift or a passion, so to speak, for music? I mean, is it something that as a youth you always like? For me, I grew up listening to radio a lot, so I realized at a young age I always loved media. So for you, when did you discover that?
Can't tell the exact time, but from a very young age, I always knew that I was in love with just listening to the song, the music. My mom was always into music. My uncles, I would remember him having like them CD players with hundreds of CDs. So something about seeing people with huge catalogs of music was something that used to interest me in the household. So if I walk in a house and you have a record player with records. I'd be like, well, you have plenty records. Like something about that would interest me. It was almost like it was a video game to like put a CD in a radio or whatnot and play and hear the music. So that by itself was very intriguing to me.
Yeah.
I think from there it became a hobby. Just saying by a radio and just trying out new CDs. I wouldn't even know who's the artist, but just putting in the CD in the radio was something was special about it, you know. So I think that's where I really found my love for music. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. All right. So I guess at this point you're out of school, you're a teenager. When was the what was the breaking point? When, cause I understand you do producing as well, right? And you're also an artist. So when was the first time you actually got into the music, like recorded and got exposed to like the studio settings and stuff like that?
So from the time I finished school,
Mm.
I always tell this story, I watched this movie by the name of Hustle and Flow.
Yeah, man.
In the movie, they basically was showing you how to build a studio, with the egg crates on the wall and all that kind of vibe. So it was basically showing you how to create a studio from nothing, So that movie inspired me. So from the time I finished high school, I kind of followed the exact same pattern. I had egg crates on my wall, I had my condenser microphone, I had my mixing board, I had my laptop, and that was my studio, and that was like 2007, 2008,
Yeah, man.
and I started to record artists in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And that really where it started,
You remember the first artist you record? I'm assuming you record yourself first.
And I didn't even record myself first.
Yes.
I didn't record myself first because I wanted to do the right way. I wanted to sit down behind the laptop and record somebody. So I mean it had plenty artists in the neighborhood already.
Yeah.
So I was like, yo, I have a setup home there, come and record something. And my first recording was a rapper by the name of Sicker Flow.
Okay.
Yeah, he was the first, and from there they started to record everybody,
Okay. All right. So you started to record. I believe you started building a name for yourself. So at this
Yeah.
point, I'm trying to get the history of the thing, right? So at this point now, where did your involvement with TriniBad began?
Doing music, as I say, from the time I finished school.
Yeah.
So I was going through all different phases with the music, we produce soca, we do reggae, we do the hip hop, we do the dance. So we was doing all different things to find a strategy, because Trinidad wasn't known for like a huge genres of music. It was soca, the chutney, the calypsos, It felt almost impossible to break the gate with any other type of genre of music. Basically, I sort of had this vision, and I met Swanny on Facebook. I just felt like he had the image. I wasn't really a fan of the music per se, but image was like, all right, this could work. I could see this working,
Yeah.
I brought him up in the studio and I told him, I said, bro, here we're going. I going to do music, we're going to shoot the videos, and we're going to try to bust the gate as real as it is.
Right.
This is what it is, and this is what we're going to give them. And the first video was Go For Them, which was like the first successful TriniBad song.
Yeah.
And from there we just started to do more and more. And then I started to branch off and work with artists like Jelano and Meds Boss. And the more I was shooting the videos, and I was doing these things for free. I wasn't just going into the hood with my camera and just shooting these videos and just putting them out rapidly.
Yeah.
And TriniBad urged,
Right. So I want to understand something very quickly. So you went from meeting Prince Swanny and doing the music, and you mentioned videography. Now, did you have any experience prior to that, or you just buy a camera and realize like this is the basic?
So I bought a camera to shoot my videos because I was an artist before.
Right.
And I bought a cheap camera, nothing special. It was my
Yeah.
first camera ever. I never shoot a video in my life. I probably practiced on myself and I practiced on like one or two other friends.
Right.
But I was not videographer to say I really knew what I was doing. Yeah, and I meet Swanny, and I mean that was the reason I buy the camera in the first place, like to shoot videos. Swanny was like my first major project.
Yeah, man.
The visuals kind of put a image to the music.
Yeah.
And it was like the first time where this generation kind of saw that type of element, It was, from there it was just history,
Where did the name Trinidad came from? Was that something that you guys created, or that just came to be the name itself?
It's a very interesting question because people would say all different things. But from my memory,
Yeah.
I would always hear like it was a word that people would have been using. I don't necessarily know who firstly say Trinidad, but I
Yeah.
remember even before the movement, I would always hear Swanny say Trinidad. I was all like, but there are a group of people that's using this word, Trinidad, Trinidad. But the thing is, the word bad was always part of our culture.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we used to always use that word, like that real bad boy, that real bad boy, like that was always a word that we used to use in the lingo. So I
Yeah.
never really take it on to be like who come up with that. I would expect a Trinidadian to flip the D and put a B.
Yeah.
I would expect them to do that, Trinidad,
Yeah.
TriniBad,
Yeah.
and then DJ Pun created a mix and
Right.
he took all the TriniBad songs and he put it on the mix and he called it TriniBad. And I guess with the mix now, it
Yeah.
packaged what was Trinidad dancehall because the name of the mix was TriniBad Mix.
Yeah, man.
So, TriniBad.
Yeah, makes sense, man. And pick up Pon same way because there was an interview you did with Pon, and what I really appreciate about the interview that you do, you created that platform. In my opinion, we know the media things stay, especially in Trinidad or in the Caribbean on the whole. I would say a lot of people that's in the culture, unless they're mainstream or with a certain group organization, they don't really get their stories and the real history of certain things. So with Pon, I mean, like you mentioned, I think the word Trinidad, like you mentioned, was one of those words that was there in the
Yeah.
package, the music or the genre, so to speak. Yeah, you even play that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yes. Nice, man, nice. All right, so what was it like, man, when you see the successes of Trinidad start taking off? I mean, it took, I mean, in the Caribbean, especially in Jamaica, the Trinidad song was everywhere. So,
Yeah.
what was that experience for you? I mean, as a youth, it seemed like the success came together pretty fast.
Yeah, pretty fast, pretty fast. Everything happened like overnight, literally. Literally. Like it wasn't even like it didn't even grow into something. It just
Yeah,
happened. I remember when we shot the video like Sunday evening and by Monday 10 a.m. it was already out on YouTube. And then the first day we get like I think it was like 50,000 views. But
yeah.
those days 50,000 views was like
Are you plenty, right?
it was amazing to even see 50,000 views in one day. And then
Yeah,
the second day, you'd see 100,000. And the third day was 200,000. And then it reached 1 million in like 2 weeks.
yeah,
And we was like, dog, what is happening here? And from that, it was just more and more and more and more. And then
yeah,
probably like 6 months' time, like Trinidad was here to stay.
yeah,
So it was definitely, very inspirational is the word I would use. Like to see that we create something from nothing definitely was inspirational.
yeah.
Yeah.
Over the years, a lot of ups and downs in the Trinidad culture, the Trinidad movement, Trinidad,
Mhm.
you know, culture on the whole. We have
Yeah.
lost a couple of artists as well. Um, What's some of the misconceptions people may have about the genre or the people that's part of the Trinidad culture?
I mean, so many misconceptions. I think that one of the major misconceptions is I think a lot of people don't take time to understand what is Trinidad.
Yeah,
They just look at it as a genre of music and they don't see it as a movement or something that was birthed through something.
yeah,
Just like how soca music was birthed and calypso music was birthed and carnival was birthed. It was birthed through rebellion and birthed through pain.
yeah,
And Trinidad is of the same nature, but just in a different nature, at a different time,
yeah,
basically. Trinidad was birthed in a time where 600 people would yell, dying in Trinidad from gun violence. 50, 60 years ago, it did not have those types of problems.
yeah,
Trinidad was birthed through those problems.
yeah,
And
yeah,
the same people who fell victim to these problems, which is gun violence and all these things, they are the same ones who singing the songs.
yeah, yeah.
So at the end of the day, a man could want to change, but
Mm,
his environment and his reality not necessarily would change,
yeah,
because of the lack of infrastructure, the lack of support from certain heads that could support it, but rather treat it like a disease. And that's something that they've been doing even before TriniBad. They ignore a certain type of people. That is basically what TriniBad is. Is a child of a rich man that don't want to face the reality that he was never there for his child.
Wow, that's deep.
You know,
Yeah, that's deep, bro.
it's a real thing.
Yeah, man.
So people now will just have a misconception that it's just bad man thing. It's not it's no different to the hip hop industry. It's no different to the dancehall industry in Jamaica. It's no different to all these things. We see so many rappers, Tupac and Biggie, died from gun violence. But hip hop is probably one of the biggest genres in the world today. With a little infrastructure, a little help, things could be better. But we don't have that. So we have to just take wherever come and, and just hope for the best.
Yeah, man. When you was doing some research, when you was a kid, I guess at Newtown, no, I remember I said Newtown. I remember was RC and just stuff like that. You was pretty quiet, pretty laid back, from my understanding. But to now, you have a level of, which is the good thing, of course, is a level of confidence, and you're very outspoken, and you like to say, let's keep it real. You like to keep it real. Where that realness and that openness came from?
Well, I'm still a very quiet person. Like, believe it or not, right? That passion does only come out when we having these type of conversations.
Yeah.
So when we talking about the youth, so we talking about TriniBad, or we talking about the music industry, or we talking about how we could help people and all these different types of things. That is where my passion lies.
Yeah.
So if I are wrong somebody and that is what they are about, they will get that out of me. I could relate to that. Anything else besides if it's Real Madrid and Barca, I ain't really going and be talking too much in your head about it. I don't talk about cars, I don't talk about politics, I just don't engage in certain types of conversations,
Right.
But I felt like me going through the industry and gathering so much experience and seeing so many different things, I felt like I did owe it to the generation coming after, that I had to give them the knowledge that I acquired along my journey. I didn't have anybody to do that for me. So I just decided to pick up that mantle, and then also I was seeing things in my industry that I really didn't agree with. I felt like nobody wanted to rise up and say anything, so I took it upon myself to fight for a cause, as they may call it.
Yeah. I want to back up a little bit with the Trinidad conversation, because it just came at the, just you talk. Because like I say, I grew up in Trinidad, so I know how the culture is. What was somebody pushback when you first started? Because like I said, you guys took a product and made it mainstream. But I'm sure, like I said, it was not traditional. What was some of the pushback you guys got from, the industry itself?
Well, I mean, first of all, like, I remember when I now started to work with Swanny.
Yeah.
But we was working behind the scenes, so we had songs recorded, like we had certain things ready to release basically. I remember I would play it for like people behind the scenes, like just to hear what they would say. Now, days before I release it.
Yeah.
And people would tell me straight up, they will never play that on the radio. Nice, let me know, brother man. It's bad enough. Let me be real though. 96.1 not playing no man singing about this and rifle, and they're not playing that KG. But I just know that was wrong.
Yeah.
And then on top of that too, I didn't care if the radio didn't play it or not. I never was studying that. I was studying to give it to the people.
Yeah.
I go and feed the streets. And when we put it out, bro, it just went.
Yeah.
And I just rock back and laugh at everybody who just try to pretend like if they knew that they would have work.
Yeah.
So yeah, but nobody didn't believe that something like that would have work.
Yeah.
That aesthetic on a whole was like, that is not Trinidad. But the reality is that is Trinidad.
Trinidad.
That is real Trinidad.
Listen, it's a lot of pretense. I don't know why, like you say, it's one of those things. We all know that there's two sides to a coin. Let's put it that way. Right? And we all know, not just in Trinidad, in the Caribbean. A lot of, I live out here in the U.S., and A lot of times they talk about the Caribbean, thinking about, white sand and blue waters. We all know behind the curtain is a whole different world, a whole different economy. So it's nothing new, you know? I want to talk about a song that you did called Must Make It. It's one of them songs that it caught my attention. And the reason why I said it, because like I said, back to the whole Trinidad thing, there's two sides to the coin. A lot of times we hear the negative side of Trinidad music, but there's also a lot of positive and motivating songs, inspirational songs as well. How you came up with Must Make It? What was the inspiration behind that project?
I mean, that's the type of music I personally always liked doing. That real, down to earth type of dancehall.
Yeah.
But that song I was in the US for like I think it was like 4 or 5 months. And
Yeah.
that was the longest I ever been away from home. So I was going travel, homesick, home depression.
About
And
that?
that's why in the chorus I say, Granny me gone, please don't worry, because I was missing my grandmother and all them kind of vibes, but I any day I was trying to motivate myself and say, no matter, I must make it through. Because, like sometimes we might leave home and we might miss home, but
Yeah.
sometimes you have to leave the nest to really grow and these type of things now,
Yeah, man.
and that time I was in America for that amount of time, it kind of was pulling at me, so I was feeling like, way boy, like what going on with me, boy, I wonder if I could sustain my career, boy, away from home, da, 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 da. So, it's like, no matter what I go on, I must make it,
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Nice,
That's,
nice.
that's actually my favorite song out of every song I ever do. Like something about that song. I just remember like how I was feeling recording that song.
Yeah.
That was it. And a matter of fact, that song was really supposed to be quote unquote last release.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, but I ended up releasing like 2 or 3 songs after that. But
Yeah.
that was when I was like trying to transition into a new KG. I was trying to figure out. I was feeling very underrated, and because
It
we
happened.
all know people like the gunman music and they like the bad man thing. And when people like myself try to sing those type of songs, we don't really get no forward. The people don't support it.
Yeah.
So after I released that song, I made up my mind that I didn't want to feel underrated no more. I wanted to move on with my career. And I didn't even know what I was going on doing. I just knew that I wanted to grow. I wanted to move on. Not too long after is when I found, the whole podcast energy and you know.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's why I wanted to ask you about that song, man. Because I pay attention to everything. I pay attention to details. I've been looking at your career, and then listen to your podcast, your music, and something about this song. I could tell the passion in the voice and the
Yeah.
message. I understand. So that's the reason why I asked. All right. So you mentioned the podcast. So at what point did you decide, you know what, I want to jump into this podcast space, man? This thing look interesting. What made you decide to step into that world?
Well,
Because different.
I was always a fan of podcasts, like probably over a decade now. That was something that I would do on the side, like just look at podcasts, So I always knew I was interested in podcasting. But at the same time too, I just felt like we needed that in Trinidad at the time. We needed a platform. I would look at like the Breakfast Club and different platforms, and I knew in my heart that those platforms were so important to
Yeah,
the industry. I would look at academics and Vlad TV and all these different things. I'd be like, this is so powerful. Like this is what we need. We need media. We had the music, we have all these things, but we had no conversation. And so I decided that, if nobody wanna do it, I would do it. And I also knew I had plenty to say, I had a lot of things to say. Even before I did the podcast, I would do like these random videos
Yeah.
where I would like just be talking about certain things, and people would always,
yeah,
and yeah, so I grew up around Hollybee and whatnot. And I remember a time like I was like about 17, and I ended up saying a speech for my mother birthday, and Holly B was there. I was
yeah,
young. I was into music. I wanted to be an artist. And he called me over and he was like, you have a voice for radio, and I never understood what he meant by that. My whole life, I'd be like, "What? Like, why is that radio voice? I wanna sing. I wanna be an artist." And to see like Walls do, it shows that he knew exactly what he was speaking about. Basically, he was just trying to tell me, I have a powerful voice.
Yeah, you have a voice and a personality for media, pretty much.
And I imagine that I never knew that. I would have never thought. So it just goes to show how like the journey of life now.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that people always see the potential in yourself that you don't see. But yeah, when you say Holly B, I'm thinking like your generation. That's why when I thought, wait a minute, okay, I get it now. Yeah, man, that's a legend, boy. That's a legend.
Yeah, Holly B, yeah, man.
All right, so we got into the podcast space. Very successful in the space. It's something that I do enjoy. And just to piggyback, I really enjoy seeing, especially in our industry, which is I would say Trini podcasters. When I'm saying this is we all in the same space, right? I did an interview with Corey last week or week before. I'm sure if you remember Corey Shepherd. He does a
Yeah,
podcast.
for sure. For
Yeah,
sure.
man.
Yeah.
Good Bridget. And in the podcast, I told Corey, I said, listen, I really enjoy seeing people stepping up and really doing these podcasts in a podcast space. And I never look at each person as a competition. I
Yeah.
always look at it as a way of us getting these stories out there.
Pardon the interruption. Now a word from our wonderful sponsors.
Shipping nightmares? Not anymore. Let me spill the tea on stress-free international shipping. Jay's Hassle-Free International is the game changer you've been waiting for. Air, ocean, Caribbean, Dominican Republic. They've got it all covered. And those special rates? Absolutely amazing. Full container or just a corner, their prices will make your wallet do a happy dance. No more headaches over complicated shipping. Just call the shipper lady at 443-927-5816 and watch your worries vanish. Trust me, once you try Jay's Hassle-Free International, you'll wonder how you ever lived without them. Wave goodbye to shipping stress and hello to smooth sailing. Serving Pennsylvania, Delaware, and the DMV. Remember that number, 443-927-5816. Your stress-free shipping journey starts now.
Imagine floating on the Chesapeake Bay, waves gently lapping, stress melting away. Now picture this, a spa but make it nautical. Welcome to Be Well Boats by Floating Needs. We're not just boats, we're floating sanctuaries of bliss. Drift away your worries with a massage while cruising the coastline. Choose from dockside, open water, or beachfront wellness experiences. Aromatherapy, hot stone massages, henna, scalp treatments. We're redefining relaxation. Why settle for ordinary when you can float to extraordinary? Perfect for birthdays, anniversaries, bridal parties, even waterfront weddings. Located at Canton Waterfront, Baltimore. Ready for your aquatic escape? Call 844-727-BOAT or visit floatingneeds.com. Your relaxation awaits.
And yeah, because it's very, very important. And I feel like in our culture specifically, we are behind. One thing I'm putting this out there, you mightn't say it, and people mightn't say it because we all in the same, we all go through the same issues. I'm very sure about that. Especially soca artists and management. They need to understand that this is part of the ecosystem. Look at the Jamaican culture, you look at hip hop culture, that's what helps push the culture forward. So I really, really appreciate the work you've been doing. And I really, 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 really enjoy the podcast. Now, we talk about the podcast space. Big topic, AI and music. You brought it up, put into, what it did into. I think a lot of people have a certain level of misconceptions about the topic. I myself started asking, interviews. Mentioned to Mr. Vegas, and he gave his take on AI and music. And I think there's many different opinions on AI and music. We all know where KG stands on AI. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to elaborate your position on AI in music, because I think some people may have a misunderstanding on, because AI been around in music. Let's put it that way. But I think for you, it's like you don't like the fact that I'm going to come up with a whole song in AI. Am I correct on that?
Not necessarily. You see, AI is AI. AI is AI. AI is artificial intelligence. So AI is not necessarily one thing. AI is AI, right? I have no problem with artificial intelligence. I have a problem when somebody trying to insult my intelligence.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence is one thing. Insulting people intelligence is another thing. You understand? So let's say for instance, I want to do a song with AI. And I go on this app and I am truthful to what I am doing. Let's just say I prompt the app. I put in a few words and I just allow the AI to spit back whatever the AI spit back at me. When you get that product now, you are to be truthful about what this product is. Now, if you decide to go on a stage
Mm.
and basically lip sync the robotic voice, to me, you are a fraud. But if you take the AI, let me just make an example, Sheldon Mendoza, right? He created an AI.
Mm.
He also created an animation for the AI.
Yeah.
And he has the animation, which is a female voice. So he created a female, and she is singing this AI song. I have no problem with that because he is being truthful about what this is. This is not my voice, this is a robotic voice. So I also took time to create an AI for the voice, and I'm selling it as a product. Nothing wrong with that. Me and NCW now had a little back and forth because he was taking the AI song and then he was coming on the media and pretending that he was singing it. That is the problem. Just put out the AI.
Yeah.
Tell people, yo, I use Suno.
Yeah.
Here what come out of it. All right,
Yeah.
song good. But you try and you on a radio station lip syncing and trying to make people, and then majority of his following is
Yeah.
older folks. So they would not see it how I would see it.
Yeah.
You know, they would just see him doing his thing and be like, keep doing your thing. But what is he doing? Prompting an AI app and pretending that he is talented. I don't agree with it and I can't agree with it. That is why we asked him the question of, he claims he's a pan man. So we say, you's a man who passionate about pan. You in the pan yard, you grinding with the kids and them in the pan yard, teaching them how to play this pan.
Yeah.
Would you go in the grandstand to look at AI pan? Imagine a ranger from a pan side going on Suno
Yeah.
and they're just playing it through the speakers and men pretending to play.
Yeah.
They're not playing it.
Mm.
They cannot play. Prompt the app. They say Suno, putung, 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 and the Suno generate whatever spit out a pan.
Yeah.
A full pan side of plane. Can you tell the app, give me 15 ton a pan, 10
Right.
bass, it's
Yeah.
fixed out for you. And then you're going in panorama, and then you lip sync in the pan. And the speakers playing the pan. And then that becomes panorama.
Yeah.
Would they be okay with that? Nobody would be okay with that. It must have a line. They
Right.
talk about auto-tune. They talk
Yeah.
about these tones. They say that AI. But bro, let me be real. You could download how much tones you want. Still have some level of talent to play that.
Yeah.
You still have to know how to quantize. You still have to know how to mix a beat, compression, for it to sound good. Not just about KGs use artificial tones, AI. But all you come in my studio and build a beat. See if that same AI will help you. You still have to be talented. You still have some level of talent. Auto-tune. You still have to know how to hold a key.
Yeah.
You still have to know how to breathe when you're singing. You still have to, for it to sound good.
Yeah.
We ain't just saying a man can, anybody could use what they want. But we're talking about, but would it sound good? But I know the AI is definitely going to make you sound good with 2% of prompting. I can't even call it talent. Bro, I went on the app, Suno app, because I wanted to see what these men doing. Now, I know about technology. I just grab onto technology easy.
Right,
So it
right.
take me about 2 minutes to figure out how to use this app. It's so dread. It have a free version. I didn't even have to pay.
Yeah.
So it's free. I go on my phone, say, soca beat.
Yeah.
I say, kutung ting kiting, tudung tutong kashitadu.
Yeah.
It sent back a mix and master soca rhythm to me in 10 seconds.
Yes.
I couldn't believe.
Yeah.
My sister was next to me. I say, I say, Gil, sing something. She's not even a singer. I
Yeah.
say, just sing like 10 lines about your life, say your name. She was like, my name is Carlan. Thing, and she's singing. Da, 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 da. Spit back a full verse.
Yeah. How a song?
And this person has zero talent. So it showed me how easy it was to create something on these apps.
Right. Right.
And I could never respect it. I am hearing a lot of music right now. And I could hear that is AI.
Yeah, I must listen. I had a brethren send me a whole album, but he told me, he said, bro, I know you feel about AI, but check out my AI album. I want to listen, I'm laughing, but at the same time, I'm like, to the untrained ear, you know,
Yeah. People saying, people listening to like the vocal tones and thing and saying, my song ain't good. But if you listen to the song itself,
yeah,
that is a horrible song.
yeah. Like I said, to the untrained ear, it was sound good.
That is not no song, and no emotion in it, no feeling.
Too clean.
It's just like a robot singing a song for you.
Yeah, too clean.
I carry that. Carry that. Sorry.
No, fair enough, man. You know you're passionate. You know about the music, you're passionate, man. I definitely want to touch base on that. So you and NCW went back and forth. And I'm gonna put a disclaimer out there. I did reach out to NCW back then when when the whole thing kind of started, and needless to say, he wasn't too particularly interested. I was at the time, but needless to say, you dropped the song "Paint Man." Now I think people knew this side. Well, I'll put it this way. We all knew you have a talent because we know you're the artist, the producer, and everything. But when we hear Pete, man, we're like, wait, is he like he and I like he really it seemed like he really take it to heart with this thing, man. So how Pete man came together, man. I gotta ask you, what was
Well,
how the whole concept came about?
we were connected, People that tell us things. And from the time people realized that he did sing a song about me, I had to just ring down my phone and who started to give me information. Because I being real, I didn't know a thing about NCW before the situation. I just knew NCW as a man that's be on the internet making stale jokes. I never even knew him as a comedian. I never looked at him as a comedian. He was never important to me at no time in life. So when I had to diss him now, because he dissed me first with the AI thing. He was on our live and I actually apologized on the live and we went our way. I thought we was good, but I was still bashing AI. I wasn't bashing him, but I was on my AI run. I was talking about this whole AI thing, and he probably think because I was still talking about AI, I probably was talking about he. But I never apologized for not liking AI. I apologized for disrespecting you because you probably felt like I shouldn't have said this and I shouldn't have said that. And I was like, all right, bro. I apologize. Started to realize that he was still using my imagery and all those things to push his AI music. Boom shot. I can't remember something was said or something, and the next day I see a song out, my name in it.
Yeah.
He probably really didn't know who was KG and he make a mistake. When I doing these types of things, I just go all out. I not going and jump on a track to come halfway just because I know you're not ready. I want to show you that you're not ready. And that's exactly what I do. That some people say, oh, they didn't like how I put the gun lyrics in it. Bro, I a TriniBad artist. They want me to do a calypso. I'm not a calypso. You then this a soca artist. You this a dancehall artist. That's how we does clash. We does clash hard. And we found out some things. And we slip it in the song.
I heard the song. I remember the first time I heard the song. I say, wait. All right, so moving, all right, moving past that. So once again, another little piece of bacchanal took place on the podcast with your boy Benjai. What happened with that situation, man?
Boy, first and foremost, I was a big up Benjai, Jai, even up to this day, Benjai thinks that we are enemies.
Yeah.
Because we're not accustomed to this yet, in Trinidad, certain types of journalism or certain types of media, or whatever. So I knew that I would have stepped on a lot of toes and I would have make a lot of enemies in the industry. But I have no problem with that. Real to real, because before I say certain things, especially when I came to Benjai, I make sure and give him like all his flowers and like really stressed on the fact that he's one of my favorite artists and all these things, But he would ignore all of that and just run to the part where I just being honest now. So it's almost like I could be honest about everything, but when it comes to all I said was, like I find like you should just put in a little more work, and I was really speaking from a position of a young one in the industry today. What
Yeah.
do we look at as hard work in 2026? Is not what all you would have like back then. Them would have just go to the studio, cut a tune, send it to the radio station, man go book here, you come out on the stage, give your best performance, go on tour, wherever, and that is like hard work to them. But to us, we want to see content. We want to see consistent music video productions. We want to see a lot of work for we to really say, all right, you up there with Marshall or you up there with, you can't just sing a 1-2 song for we in the carnival and expect it to be something. And what I was basically saying, and he probably thought like when I used the word lazy, I meant like him as a man or, no, it's not. I know what is a lazy artist. I just be around them every day. Like artists can't be lazy. That is why they have management teams and all these things,
Yeah.
because an artist's job is just to do the music.
Yeah.
And most likely he's a manager who would make sure that you wake up early to go to your video shoot or whatever. So I understand. I was just trying to be honest.
Yeah.
And this go. Honesty does always get me in trouble.
No, well, listen, I appreciate the honesty. And once again, like I mentioned, we in the space hear all these stories. These things are not specific to Benja. We're not just beating at him. But in the itself, in the industry, a certain these are conversations that goes around between DJs. I mean, anybody we know about these things. I mean, I have conversation behind the scenes with managers and they mightn't call names, but they will just talk about, like you say, some people that
Plenty of them want less. Plenty of them want less,
there you go. We want to get we listen. We're not bashing anybody, but like you said, these things that goes on in the industry, and nobody talks about it on a platform. They just keep it among themselves. But in order for us to grow as a people, as artists, as anybody in the industry, we need to hold ourselves accountable. So that was an interesting piece of conversation there, man. I laughed, but I ain't gonna lie, I laughed, but I laughed.
Big up Benjai, man. Big up Benjai. Benjai is still one of my favorite artists.
Yeah, man.
Oh, man.
Cool.
Love those.
All right. So, what's one of your most memorable? I mean, this far, so as of now, what's one of your most memorable interviews that you did? Because you did quite a number of interesting interviews.
If I had to be real honest with you, I
Yeah.
think that the most impactful interview was actually an interview with no artist. That was the interview where it was me and Naldo. No, that wasn't Naldo. That was Visa. And that was when I broke down the whole big links, the Trinidad killer with the big links
Yeah.
thing. I felt like after that kind of put me up a little bit because people kind of started to realize the way how I would articulate myself was different to the average journalist or whatnot, I think that when the eyes really came on me, like, who's this man, boy? And I remember when Trinidad Killer first jumped on the rhythm without permission,
Yeah.
everybody was bashing him. Nobody was taking his side and was like, bro, you cannot do that. Like you have no case here. And
Yeah.
then when I came and I gave my explanation about the whole situation, I literally saw the whole narrative change. Nicki Minaj came in and thing and like everything changed, because narratives are so important and context is so important, and I felt like Trinidad Killer didn't have the ability to give the context. Because he was not wrong. He
Yeah.
wasn't right either, but he was not wrong, and I felt like when I gave my perception of the whole situation, I kind of change. It changed a lot, it changed a lot. And when I realized how powerful my voice was too,
Yeah.
So that was literally like very memorable for me, I would say.
Yeah, that was a good one, man. And once again, like I said, you gave a different perspective that a lot of the average person don't know. Once again, behind a lot of things that goes on, but don't understand. It wasn't a too right make a wrong type of thing, but I think what I'm trying to say is one of those things that Killer did what he had to do, and was it right, was it wrong? It could be interpreted many different ways, but there was a reason why that happened. All right, so let me see. Brand ambassador for Rude Boy, congratulations. Well, I got a whole sponsorship and ambassadorship came about.
But I think that I went to do an interview with Rude Boy. They just called me to just be on the Rude Boy platform. I think it was from there where they kind of saw my work. Because around that same time too, I was really, buzzing with certain conversations, I was doing well. Like I was seeing my trajectory. I was seeing my whole career going up now, and I felt like when I went to do the interview with Rude Boy,
Yeah,
the way how I handled the interview, same way too, they kind of saw I value in me and decided to, to give me a contract and, big up Rude Boy, like for
yeah,
seeing that vision because most companies would run from figures like us, they would think that we too controversial or we too real or we too honest, You can't control us, but Rude Boy literally told me that we love what you do and we are not even going to tell you what to do. You just be KG.
nice.
And I mean, nothing wrong with KG.
Yeah,
KG is nothing wrong with me.
yeah,
It's just that I am just very honest and very passionate about the things that I speak about,
yeah.
And that's basically it.
That's good, man. Big up to Rude Boy and the whole company, man, because a lot of times these partnerships, they don't want you to do this, you can't say that, and they want to control your creative process. So the fact that they give you opportunity to be yourself, you have to commend them on that.
Yeah, they had a very young team, dealing with certain things. And I feel because of that too,
Yeah,
they understand that, bro, that is what we lacking. Lacking people like KG.
yeah,
There's the entertainment business. We need that. We need it. We need it.
yeah.
So
Well, this part of the podcast is called 2000 Questions About Me. I'm not going to ask you 2000 questions, obviously. It's based on a book that I have. So I want to ask you to pick a number from 1 to 2000, and the number you pick will be the question that's asked out of the book.
22.
22. All right. 22. Let me see. 22. I'm glad because some people are going crazy with it too, man. 22. All right. What do you most value in your friends? What do you most value in your friend?
I would say loyalty. Yeah, loyalty is very important in this life.
All right. Well, at this point, man, that's gonna wrap it up. Pretty much gonna open up the floor to you. Any last statements you want to make? The floor is yours.
I mean, big up yourself,
Yeah.
for bringing about the platform. And as I say, we just here trying to keep it real.
Yeah, man.
Trying to continue to have real conversations that could push the thing forward,
Yeah, man.
never to bring it down, Yeah, and that's basically it.
Yeah. Well, I just definitely want to once again, man, commend you and your success. And I'm really proud, like I said, when I see young guys like yourself really stepping up and going after your talents and your gifts. You definitely have a gift. And, a lot of young folks are looking up to you, man. Once
For
again,
sure.
big contribution to the arts and culture and keep doing your thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, respect.
Yeah, man. So give thanks, man, for taking time out your busy schedule. Much appreciation.
Respect.
Yes, I. Ladies and gentlemen, talks with KG. Bless.
Yeah, man.
And that's a wrap on this episode of the Alonzo Bash podcast. Thank you for tuning in and rocking with us. If you enjoyed today's conversation, leave a comment and let us know your favorite episode so far. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to help the podcast grow. You can catch the Alonzo Bash podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and even on Amazon Alexa devices. Just ask Alexa to play the Alonzo Bash podcast. Until next time, stay inspired, stay connected, and as Alonzo would say, stay focused on your goals and dreams. See you on the next episode.
Yeah. It's a reality, Yo, shot. It's a real thing, dog. Real estate all the time. That is it. Yeah. So them not know the fight. Not the youth, them I get another life. Bad mind friend, them I see the sacrifice. Breathe it down, bends and I feel my life nice. Mountain nights, man, I dread. Swear on my life, if them feel that my life. Can't even go back dance, cause me feel paranoid. If me not have the 9 milli talking on my side. Yeah, shock with them was when we dream. Enough youth me help and them switch on the team. And them never had a friend or a shoulder to lean. Friendship sink from them get a little cream. Them know my yard real. Will give away my last down to my last meal. Put the cuffs on my wrist and the dog never squeal. What them know about loyalty? Yeah. What them know about real friend? Real stay real, we no breathing. Enough boy on me real on the weekend. What them know about real friend? Yeah. That's why me tell me little brother them to keep it in the farm. And if you have to pick up badness, then keep it in the sun. Me know them have to catch me straight on the men's and gun me down. But Jaja keep me firm on the ground. Remember the days that me had friends. Now them a bring me from me bad men. Some sad men, me not at them. Me, them a condemn. Enough time you help them with them problem. Me nobody not carry me assault them. Yeah. Them a vex, me get a visa. Talk all kind of fuck grip on the media. Bad mind thing, pussy all me not breed that. Get a youth breed them from a distance. Them know my yard real. Will give a boy my last down to my last meal. Put the cuffs on my wrist and the dog never squeal. What them know about loyalty? Yeah.